Hi everybody, Ken here with today's lantern project of the day. What I have here is a fresh flea market, or should I say maybe barn find, Dietz Junior in really nice shape, except it's really dirty and grungy. And what I'd like to share with you is how I clean up these old lanterns and get them back into working condition. So we're starting here in the lantern workshop, and first thing what I usually do is remove the burner and globe and the cap from these, assuming that everything works and is free, which everything seems to be fine. The cap comes off. I'll pull the globe out. Globe is really dirty. Let me get the handle out of the way. Sometimes you have to press down on these wires. And the burner, the wing lock burner, which is kind of going to be a little hard here. There we go. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll put these aside till later, and what I'm going to do is get started on the body of this thing, which is going to take place outside. So we'll be right back in a minute to the next. Okay, so here I am outside. I got a dish pan and the lantern in the dish pan, and what I like to do is just go full bore at it with the hose, believe it or not. Get it all good and wet. Then I got a little bit of ordinary dish soap and a scrub brush, and just give it a good old bath and scrub it. Okay, also you might want to have a piece of scrubbing pad here that helps get in there in some of the harder, or the smoother flat surfaces, I should say, and around the fount mainly. Looks like I had some tape. There was some tape or something on it here that seems to be coming off. And the bottom, there's a label on the bottom, but there's already nothing left on the label. It probably was a WFS, World Famous Sales, perhaps, label. I don't know, but it's already gone, so I might as well just take that off while I'm at it. And that's just what we keep on doing. We just keep working at it. And then occasionally what I'll do is I like to give it a good spray it off really hard, especially up into the top, and as well as down along the fount there, to try to blast the tubes out, to make sure all the tubes are clean. Coming out pretty good. Still some more dirt up along here. I'd like to skip that a little better there. And up in here, maybe you can pop the top and try to get some of that soot out of there. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm getting the scrubbing pad. I'm trying to feed it through here under the top here, just to get the top ledge here, because there's a lot of dirt on that. In case you haven't noticed, it's gotten a little louder out here. That actually is my central AC unit running in the background, which actually has a key part of what I do in a few minutes. I'll actually show that. That's part of the reason why I'm out here on the side of my house doing this, because I have access to the hose as well as the central AC unit. But yeah, as you can see, it's coming up really pretty good. I would say it's got 90% of all the original paint still intact. So no need for a repaint or any further actions after I get this cleaned up. And it just seems to be a spot here. I don't know if that's dirt or if there's the paint missing, but it's not too bad. Okay, so I think I got it pretty good overall. I'm going to give it a good final rinse with the hose, as well as inside the fuel tank. I forgot to mention, by the way, I actually put some soap in the fuel tank and swished it around, and you might want to rinse that out really good too to get any old kerosene that may have been in there. And what I'm going to do, shake it off the best I can, as well as empty it out the best I can. Then what I'm going to do is set it right on top of my central AC unit, which just went off at the moment. But what I'll do is I'll go inside and turn the thermostat down another degree or so in a couple minutes to let it cycle. And I have a really good airflow that comes out of here. Really nice warm air. Leave that on there about 20 minutes, and that's the best way I've found to dry these, believe it or not. That's kind of why I wait till a warm day in the summer to do it. So yeah, and then we'll go inside and we'll reevaluate the burner, the cap, and clean the globe out. Then once it's all dry, we'll put some fuel in there and give it a shot. Stay with me, I'll be right back. Okay, so the rest of the cleanup is actually going to take place inside at the sink. Just remember to clean your sink after you do this, because you know this stuff is pretty filthy. But I let my lantern sit out there about 20 minutes and it's completely dry. Came out really good, not too bad at all. But the rest of the stuff still really filthy. So what I did, took the wick. The wick is really good. The wick is in good shape yet. There's nothing wrong with the wick. Globe is really filthy. We'll start cleaning that up at the sink. What I like to do is just take a little steel wool and a little dish soap inside and out, and just run it right on around. Not too heavily, but alright. You can see the soot comes out really easily. Pretty much just the water doing the work on that. That cleaned up really well. Yep, just like a new globe. Put that aside the drain. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the cap. In the cap I have an old toothbrush that I just very lightly on that, so not to scratch the paint. That's usually an easy cleanup. And then as far as the burner, what I do is I have a small wire brush, and I put that right in the sink too, and then I just start working on it with a wire brush. If you want to add a little soap to get some of the soot out of the middle, you can run it right through the middle, no problem at all. Yeah, there's not really much of a problem with getting these things wet. It's just that you don't want them to stay wet. You have to thoroughly dry them, and then they'll be just fine after you wash them all up. What I actually do with the burner is I have a little trick for that I'll show you how I dry that really quick so as that doesn't rust up. But yeah, that's about it. Stay with me, we'll go back into the workshop and then I'll show you how I dry the burner. Okay, so back in the workshop again. The way I like to dry the burner is I have a shop vac, and it's going to get really loud in a minute, so I'll explain before. But what I do is I actually just turn the shop vac on and I just hold it on there and till it gets dry. Vacuum all the water off of it. Okay, I just gave it a little more off camera. It's really too noisy, and it's completely dry. What I like to do is I actually like to spin the wheel as I do it too, and that way that flicks off any water that may be caught up in there or whatever. But yeah, if you don't let these things sit, there's really no need to worry about rust. So what we have to do now is reassemble it, put some fuel in there, and I think it's ready to fire up. Should be a nice, good, clean lantern for a long time. Okay, so I kicked the shop vac out of my way here, and what I'm going to do is just reassemble this. Like I said, this wick is in really good shape yet. What we'll do is we'll trim it, but I don't like to trim a dry wick. For some reason they seem to cut better when they're wet. So what I'll do is I'll just put it back in there for now. I'll feed it through with the burnt side from the bottom. Just press it till it can't go anymore, and it usually grabs and usually slides right up like that. Pretty easy, pretty simple. And then what you have to do is, of course the bail is a little caught up here on this now, but okay, get that out of the way. Feed the wick into the fount. And then this is a wing lock burner. There's actually wings that protrude that actually lock into these little tabs on this. So what you do is you get it past the tab, and then like 1/8 of a turn, locks in nice and firm. Very good, very easy. And then you put your globe back on. Slide it in so that the wires catch it. It's really nice and tight. And then you can use your pull ring, or sometimes I just grab it like that, which is easier. And there we have it. We are back together. We are ready to fuel. I happen to have some fuel ready to go up here. I use these like oil things. You get them at you know, like the grocery store or whatever. Happens to work really good for my fuel. And we'll put a little fuel in there, and we'll let the wick soak up for about 15 or 20 minutes, and then we'll trim it and we'll give it a light and see what it looks like. Okay, so a few things to mention also while the wick is soaking. Let me go ahead and put my fuel cap back on here. Now since we just had this thing all wet and soapy, what you might want to do is I just tend to take a little bit of WD-40 and just kind of spray the hinge points of this, just to make it actually work a little smoother. Let's see if we can get, there's actually just a little part here where the wire goes through. I just like to give it both sides just a little bit of WD, and I always tend to overdo it, so I have my rag here. But what you want is a nice smooth operation. Actually, it's really, this is really pretty good. Yep. And you could, if you want, just to give it a little bit of, if you do, use the pull tab, just so that the pull tab doesn't seize on you. And yeah, what we'll do, we still have a few minutes to go. I could just about tell that, yeah, the fuel is just starting to come up the wick, so we'll have just a few more minutes. We'll trim off the wick and we'll light it up. Okay, so I waited a few more minutes here. I think the wick is all soaked up. One thing I also wanted to mention too is what you ought to do is you should check the bottom and make sure this thing has no leaks, which I didn't think it did, because it's a solid lantern. But if it did, it's on my workbench anyway. It's not going to hurt anything. But so what we'll do is we'll open this up just like this. What I like to do is actually just raise the wick up just enough to cut the burnt part off. Have a good pair of scissors, good sharp pair of scissors, and just I like to trim my wick straight. I just feel like I get a better cut if I go straight across with a good sharp pair of scissors like that. A nice straight edge on that. And we'll tilt the globe back in. Just like so. And then, yeah, we'll give it a, let's give it a go. Let's see what she does. Very nice. So there we have it. Took a rusty old crusty lantern, cleaned it up, and turned out to be a pretty nice usable lantern. I'll have to enjoy this outside one night on a good summer night. Please subscribe if you like my videos. Tell your friends. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. I have a whole box of projects coming down the pike here. As you can see, I will be in a lot of future videos. Thank you. Bye-bye.